Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Today is International Women's Day 2013. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. This is the beginning of our Courageous Women's Clothing Drive. And we have gotten so much clothing donated already. I just thank every single one of you for bringing the things that you brought today. And I thank you all for volunteering, because this afternoon we know we're going to get a whole lot more things brought to us. So I want to introduce myself. I am Tamia Dow. I am a retired domestic violence detective with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And I am, I guess you would say, a world traveler. And the way I came up with the idea for us celebrating International Women's Day today together was last year I celebrated it in Dhaka, Bangladesh, as part of the International Association of Women Police. We put together a march that had over nearly 1,000 police women from throughout the Asian region that came and marched on behalf of education for women and children. So I wanted to stay with that theme this year, so we are doing this clothing drive on behalf of women and children. The reason I called this Courageous Women's Clothing Drive was because you have to think about this. Right now, each and every one of us are comfortable in our homes. We go home every evening, we go to bed, we see our loved ones, we're comfortable, and we love our environment. Yet sadly, there are some people who are in environments that have abuse and violence in them. So going home is not a joyous occasion, and being at home is not the best situation for them. They are living a nightmare. They are living in fear. So it takes courage to make the decision to get out of a situation that you know is bad for you, whether it is abusive and it's bringing you down, or whether it is violent and it's bringing you down. Yet the other concern we have too in our clothing drive for the courageous women is that these women make a decision to leave these dangerous environments. Once they make that decision to leave, oftentimes there are little ones involved, which means children. And in domestic violence situations, we often forget about the children. So think about the courage it would take for a woman or a man who's being subjected to violence in their home environment to actually pick up not only themselves, but pack up their children and leave an environment that is unhealthy for both them and their children. That takes courage. And that's why we've named this the Courageous Women's Clothing Drive. Why are we collecting clothing? Because oftentimes when it's time to leave one of those violent situations, you leave with just the clothing on your back. You run out the door, you grab your child, and you go. And guess what? Thank God there is help. And what the help is in the form of NGOs, which are non-governmental organizations, and in our case here in the U.S., they're domestic violence shelters. So locally here we have several domestic violence shelters. And as a domestic violence detective, I had the opportunity to work with several domestic violence shelters. So today's drive is collecting clothing and toiletries to benefit the women and children at the local domestic violence shelters. Now, when I say toiletries, again, I want you to envision you running out of your house with just the clothing on your back. Think of a fire. When it's a fire, you don't have time to grab your valuables. What you have time to grab is yourself and leave. So these shelters provide for these women, these children, and there's also shelters for men that provide clothing. They provide vocational training. And I want you to hear this, ladies out there, vocational training. Because oftentimes I would have my victims tell me that they didn't leave a situation or stay in a situation because they are financially unable to move on or go to another situation. What I want to tell you is, don't believe that from your abuser. You can be educated, you can learn a vocation, you can be empowered to be a woman on your own, and you can be empowered to take care of your children safely and in a loving environment. What I want to tell you is love is not abuse. If you are in a situation with someone who says they love you, then there should be no form of abuse or violence involved in it. I'm adamant about that. Please believe me when I say to you, there should be no violence inside of a loving relationship. So today we are providing the opportunity. For me, I believe that opportunity is key. Education is the second key. Now I'm putting out education here, and I've had the opportunity to go all over the world and teach domestic violence training. I have taught domestic violence education and trained police officers, corrections officers, civilian police employees, citizens through citizens academies and citizen presentations, and also spoke to local women's groups. And the reason I do this is because, to me, education is key. And also to my colleagues who have come together with me on this event today. So I will have a few colleagues come up here and share their story and their part in this involvement. Yet I want you to know that my heart and my passion is for you, the potential survivor, because right now you're a victim, but don't let that keep you down. I am saying to you, it is not your fault. Yet, if you stay in the situation and do not seek help, because there is help, then examine your heart. Because you're affecting not only yourself, but you're affecting your family members and your children. So I encourage you to get the education. Wherever you are and you hear this message, if you're not in Las Vegas, Nevada, get on Google. Go to the library. Look up domestic violence shelter, domestic violence education. Get yourself safe. Get yourself out of that environment. Please do that for me. I don't want to see another domestic violence related homicide no time soon. So with that, I would like to welcome up my colleague. I'm going to bring up here, and she's going to tell you quite a bit about herself, Reverend Charmaine Lee. She is a local speaker, a published author, and a well-respected domestic violence advocate. Charmaine Lee. Thank you. So as you can see, everyone, the stories are different. You know, I can speak to you as a domestic violence detective because I'm the one who gets to speak to all of these different women and hear all of their stories. And actually, in a way, I feel very blessed by that. It's sad, the stories that I see and I hear. It's great when I hear the success stories and I see how empowered people are. And when I hear that people listen, because people call us as domestic violence detectives and as advocates, and they ask for advice. What should I do? And then we give them that advice. Yet here's the thing, and I believe I mentioned it earlier. Knowledge is nothing unless it's applied. And it's even less when you don't share it. So I stand on what Zig Ziglar says. Zig Ziglar says that if you help, actually he says, help as many people as you can get what they want. And if you do that, then you will get what you want in life. So with that, I would like to encourage you to listen all the way through to what is being said in this press conference. There are so many unique stories that we are sharing here today, and one of them may speak to you. And we really appreciate each and every person who is here because we know that in some way, domestic violence has touched your life. So up next, I'd like to introduce my friend Rochelle. She's going to come and she's going to tell you a little bit about her victory story. Rochelle.
Hi. I stand here today very honored to speak to such courageous women and men. And I don't stand here just as a survivor, but I stand here as victorious. My story is really unique. I was in a relationship for 10 years plus. And during that relationship, I thought that it was okay for someone to hit me. I thought it was okay for someone to verbally attack me. But it's not okay. It sent me into a world that I did not know how to come out of. It sent me into a world of silence. And the silence alone was killing my very soul. I cry tears now because I'm happy. I'm happy that I was able to get out of the situation that I was in. It took one phone call for me. One phone call that I had enough. I was enough of being abused. I had enough of someone coming at me in my face. I had enough. So I made one phone call. One phone call to 911, and they were at my door. And that was the best step that I could ever take to get myself out of a situation that I had no control over anymore. And that's the thing. Being the victim, we still continue to try to control the situation because we're thinking that it's all about us. It's me, it's my fault. And that's what I'm led to believe. But it's not true. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. And nobody has the right to hit me. Nobody has the right to put words in my face and attack me verbally. That buck had to stop there. And I am glad that I made the phone call. It led me to two different shelters. One was Safe Nest, and one was Shade Tree. And there, I found hope. I found hope. In the midst of the storm that I was in, I was able to find some hope. And I got the courage just to climb back out of a hole that was so deep. I learned how to communicate with people, because at one point all of my friends were gone, and I had to reestablish relationships that were damaged by staying in the relationship that I was in. And I'm so grateful to God that I can stand here and not be quiet. And the silence is the part that kills us. So if there is a lady or a gentleman here that's in an abusive relationship, don't settle for less. Your value is so important. God values you. God values you. If you just need someone to talk to and talk your way out of it, you can find me on Facebook. I'll talk to you. I'll love with you. I'll pray with you. And we'll get through it together. You don't have to do it alone. That's the best wisdom that I can give you. Thank you. To reach me is at my Facebook page, and you can look it up by searching for RICHELLE Shelter, SHELTER @yahoo.com.
So as you can see, each story is unique. Your story is unique. And what I want you to understand about this Courageous Women clothing drive is that you may be listening to me right now. You may have stumbled upon me on YouTube. My audience has actually come here on purpose. Thank you. And you're thinking, what can I do? Or right now, that's not you. Yet think about the women, the men, the children that are witnessing and living with abuse. And then think about the cycle of violence. Think about what it teaches our little ones. If they watch, Rochelle was up here sharing, if they watch their mother being abused, Tish was up here sharing the heart of her son as he watched her being abused. We pray that he doesn't continue that cycle. We pray that Rochelle's children don't look to continue in that cycle. We pray that Charmaine's children don't look to continue in that cycle. Because here's what you must understand. We'll say, I would never treat my boyfriend or my girlfriend like that. I would never put up with what my mom or my dad did. I would never. Yet let me tell you, from experience as a domestic violence detective dealing with cases and victims and abusers, sadly, you do. Because you remember and you revert to what you remember. So if you remember Dad's response to someone speaking back to him or being upset and angry was to lash out and punch things or punch people, then guess what? So I'm saying this to the victims and the abusers. And let me tell you, I'm unique in my advocacy because I advocate for counseling for both the victim and the abuser. Because the abuser never heals if you never send them or they never go for counseling or they never see themselves as an abuser, right? The victim never fully heals if they don't get help. Sometimes you just leave the situation and say, I left and I'm good. Yet I've spoke with many a woman and they have told me that they needed a little bit more than just leaving. Don't be ashamed of counseling. Don't be ashamed to get help. And these shelters that we are donating this clothing to also provide counseling. And don't worry if you don't have the finances for this counseling, because they will help you, okay? So I'm putting this out to all of you. There is really no excuse. There is help, there is hope, there is resources, and there are people who care, because there's a room full of them right here, and there are shelters full of them throughout this city, throughout this world, where you are too. So here's what I want to leave you with. I thank everyone for being here today. I really, really do appreciate what you have done today by bringing the clothing and the toiletries and the things to bless these people in the shelter, and also by being present and hearing these victorious women's stories. You heard courageous women's stories today, and there's many, many more. And guess what? Charmaine and I are working together, and there's many, many more to come. This is not the first in our educational events, and it definitely won't be the last. So we look forward to you joining us. My contact information is I am Tamia Dow, and you can contact me at tamiadow@yahoo.com. That's TAMIADOW @yahoo.com. You can find me on Facebook at Chaplain Dow. It's CHAPLAINDOW on Facebook. Please friend me. Please join this healing community that we're in, and please help me get the word out. I am available to train, and I will travel where you are. You might have to help me out, but I'll be there, because I sincerely believe, as Zig Ziglar says, that if you help enough people get what they want in life, you will get what you want. And what I want is to see strong, courageous, victorious families out there. And I said families. This is for the men. This is for the women. This is for the children. Okay? Let's make it happen. Have an awesome International Women's Day. Yeah!